Turning to our top story, a Chinese fighter jet has dropped flares in the flight path of an Australian Navy helicopter in a dangerous mid-air confrontation. The Navy Seahawk was enforcing sanctions in North Korea when it was forced to take emergency action. Australia's Defence Department has criticised the move, describing the jet's actions as unsafe and unprofessional. The incident follows a Chinese naval vessel's sonar blast in the vicinity of Australian divers off Japan in November last year. For reaction to this story, I caught up with foreign editor at The Australian, Greg Sheridan.
Kieran, I think China is treating Australia with absolute contempt. So there's all this happy talk. We're not to criticise them except when they attack our troops and all the rest of it. And yet, incident after incident after incident, they fire sonar at our sailors, they fire laser at our pilots, they create these incidents. So the HMAS Hobart was in international waters. It was performing a mission as part of a UN resolution. It shows how feeble our Navy is, by the way. We only have 3 air warfare destroyers. They're our only modern warships. We can only deploy one of them at a time. So this is just about our whole effective Navy deployed here. And the Chinese have fired flares in the path of the helicopter pilot in an extraordinarily dangerous and provocative incident, just telling us to keep away, even though we're in what are, without any qualification at all, international waters. So obviously we should be building a bigger military, and we should be looking for trade diversification away from China, and we should be making the strongest representations we can, not just at the level of Richard Marles, but at the level of Anthony Albanese about this incident.
On another matter, we see the protests continuing at university campuses here and around the world. Where are things at on that front, and how concerned are you as we look at the rise of anti-Semitism?
Well, we are seeing a shocking, terrible outbreak of anti-Semitism. And I've written a column in today's paper saying this fits into the real corruption, the real moral and political corruption of our universities. They've become agents now of anti-Western hatred, and Jews are identified as part of the West. So our universities accept money from China, from the Confucius Institutes. They accept money from Arab dictatorships, which outlaw gay relationships. The students couldn't turn a hair because in the warped critical theory world of identity politics, Chinese and Arabs can't be villains. But Jews, because they're regarded as white Western power, are villains. And so you're seeing this astonishing hatred and intolerance of these demonstrators and these campus administrators who'll throw you off, throw you out of the street and break your tenure if you question climate alarmism or use the wrong pronoun or, you know, don't issue a trigger warning for Shakespeare or something. They are all of a sudden, avatars of free speech. I think this corruption of our universities is really a profoundly damaging sign in our civilization.
It's all erupted out of the events in the Middle East. Where are things at as we speak in terms of a ceasefire and what looks like an imminent offensive in the city of Rafah in Gaza?
Well, Israel has been offering a ceasefire now for weeks or indeed months. All that Hamas had to do was release a portion of hostages. Now, as I understand it, Israel's request for hostages has gone down to 33 people because we don't know how many hostages are still alive after they've been, tortured and mistreated and raped and abused by Hamas for all this time. The Hamas, I think, likes the destruction and devastation and death in the Palestinian territory because it damages Israel, and Hamas couldn't care less about Palestinian welfare. But it seems to have come up with this response at the very last minute, just as Israel is moving people out of Rafah to prepare for the offensive. Now, the Israeli side is saying what Hamas has agreed to is not acceptable to them. Up till now, Hamas has been insisting on a total and permanent withdrawal of Israel from Gaza, which is impossible because Israel will need to be able to re-enter Gaza to stop new October 7 terrorist attacks. Having said all that, though, you feel that the prospect of a ceasefire has never been stronger And if you get a 6-week ceasefire, that could develop into a more permanent ceasefire. Otherwise, Israel will go after those remaining Hamas battalions in Rafah, and that will mean displacing a lot of civilians. But Hamas could stop this tomorrow, or could stop it today, could stop it right now by agreeing to a ceasefire, by releasing 33 Israeli hostages. Whether Hamas is still putting on demands which it knows Israel can't fulfill, we just don't know, because they just haven't released the details of the ceasefire that Hamas has allegedly agreed to.
Foreign editor at The Australian, Greg Sheridan, thanks as always. We'll speak to you next week.
Thanks so much, Kieran. Good to be with you.